Good afternoon, happy Savage Saturday, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here, and guys, we're here today with Savage Saturday Comic Review, episode 93, and we're featuring something a little different, a little darker today, even though we have covered dark stuff before. But this is a dark tale of vengeance, and vengeance justified, but the means are not always the best way to go about it for what it costs the person who is exacting that vengeance, and we'll get into that with this story. And it features a character created by Robert E. Howard called Bran Mak Morn. Fantastic character, King Bran Mak Morn, I should say, and just another savage barbarian style character. But when you read them, you read Bran Mak Morn, you read King Kull, you read Conan. They all may be barbaric, but they're all very distinctive. They all have different personalities. They do have the savage aspect about them, and their justice is savage. But each one of these characters reads differently than the other, although they do share some traits. This is a great tale. So this is adapted from the Robert E. Howard story, and it's adapted by Roy Thomas, who, in my opinion, was the best adapter of stories. Roy Thomas has the talent that I think isn't often lauded enough for being able to take a piece of fiction and adapt it in a way that is faithful to the original, yet fits the medium it's being adapted to. Roy Thomas, when you read his adaptations, they don't take anything away from the original source material. They don't make it trivial. They don't leave stuff out that shouldn't be left out. All the points are there. The story reads as much like the Howard original as it should. And the sign of a good adaptation is you don't read the person who wrote it, the adaptation. You don't read them in the words, right? So this reads like Robert E. Howard. It doesn't read like Roy Thomas, which tells you what a great job he did in the adaptation. Now our art here is the pencils by Barry Windsor Smith, going by Barry Smith at the time, and Tim Conrad. And this is an exquisite two-part story. It is beautifully rendered. The art is gorgeous, and it's very apropos of the story, and it really draws you in. But without further ado, enough of the hype, enough hyperbole. Let's get into the story. Let's have a sip of coffee and be on our way on this dark, vengeful story. Alright, so part 1 takes place in the Savage Sword of Conan, issue number 16, with a beautiful cover by none other than one of my all-time favorites, Earl Norem. Now, opening these pages, we get to a fantastic 2-page spread just to start our tale out. Now, there is a lot of distance there between the person in the foreground and the people in the back, and you think it's too much until you kind of get into the tale, and it kind of helps set up what's going on, right? And we'll read you the first couple, kind of get you acclimated into the story. It says, the scene is a common enough one, wherever stretch the far-flung boundaries of the Roman Empire. A rude cross lies flat upon cold stone, and on it is bound a man, nearly naked, wild of aspect, and with his corded limbs, glaring eyes, and shock of tangled hair. And wrapping his purple cloak closer about the powerful frame, there in the cool night air is Titus Sulla, allows a mocking smile to curve his full lips. Then he prepares to settle back in his official chair, much as he might have done in his seat at the Circus Maximus, to enjoy the clash of gladiatorial swords. Behind him, impassive blonde titans from the Rhineland stand with shields and spears. And so you're getting this quick introduction to this Roman ruler who's in charge of that area. The vengeance they're taking and the punishment upon this man that they're about to nail to a cross. And Titus is saying, striking the nail, soldiers, and let our guests see the reality of our good Roman justice. So when you turn the page, you see the guest there. He's grim of aspect, and he's just staring forward, sullen-eyed, and very foreboding. And his name is, by what they're telling you here, the man to whom Titus Solus has referred to as guest stands like a dark bronze image, unspeaking. And Titus says, well, Parthomach Othna, when you return to your tribe, you will have a tale to tell of the justice of Rome who rules here in Eboracum. And very grim, he's like, yeah, I'll have a tale. And Titus is telling him the Roman law, the Pax Romana, reward for virtue, punishment for wrong. And he goes, and you see, emissary Piclian, how swiftly Roman punishes the transgressor. And Parthomach Othna says, yeah, I see, Titus Sola, that the subject of a foreign king is dealt with as if he were a Roman slave. And Titus Sola is trying to tell him that that he was condemned in an unbiased court. And Parthomach Othna saying, yes, the accuser was Roman, the witness is Roman, the judge was Roman. And all this because in a moment of fury, he struck down a Roman merchant who first cheated and then slapped him. This guy had the nerve to defend himself, and now he is being nailed to a cross for the atrocity of self-defense. And you guys will have to excuse me because throughout my allergies, as you can tell, with swollen face and swollen eyes, are killing me. And he throws, Titus Sola throws another insult in there. He says, is his own, you may inform your king, whom you call Bran Mak Morn, that Rome makes no account of her actions to barbarian kings. Because Parthomach Othna was trying to goad him a little into saying something. This Titus Sola, he is just a brutal, brutal ruler of the region. And he looks forward, he says, you may proceed. And the guy that's being nailed to the cross is just looking at Parthomach Othna, looking for any kind of quarter, any kind of help that he may be able to give him. Parthomach Othna, he cannot give any. If he makes any actions, he himself will be put on a cross. Same fate will befall him, and nothing will go forward from there. So inexorable hammer strokes drive the cruel points deep through wrists and ankles. Blood flows in a black river, staining the wood of the cross, and the splintering of bones is distinctly heard. Yet though the bound victim instinctively wrenches and struggles, he makes no outcry. At length, the final stroke falls. The cords are cut so that the man will hang supported by nails alone. And then he takes a look across, back at Parthomach Othna once again. And he goes, nor do the soldiers note that his eyes, his black, unglazed eyes, there still lingers a desperate shadow of hope as he stares at the face of the man called Parthomach Othna. Now, this man can take no action. He is in a no-win situation, and they put the soldier up there. And Titus Sola makes a mockery of King Bran Mak Morn once again. And he, with the emissary of Parthomach Othna there, he says, these Picts are harder than cats to kill. I'll keep a guard watching day and night to see that no one takes him down before he dies. And he goes to one of his soldiers, here, Valerius, in honor of our esteemed neighbor, King Bran Mak Morn, give the man a cup of wine. Now, when this guard proffers a cup of wine to him, the bound guy hanging on the cross spits in the Roman's eye. The Roman cries out in a fit of vengeance, Pictish dog, and then slaughters him, driving his sword through the man's belly, killing him. And then you can see the real stress and the real toll this is taken on Mak Othna, Parthomach Othna. With his guy there with him, you could see the horror that they are experiencing, watching one of their own slaughtered wholesale in front of them. It is just a brutal scene. They can do nothing to help him. They are surrounded by Roman soldiers. And it would just be the three of them being slain together. And Titus Sola takes a soldier that slew the Pict, and he says, you young fool, do you not realize you could not have made the dog a more kindly gift than a quick death? Centurius Publius placed him under arrest. A few days in the cell with stale bread and water will teach you to curb your patrician pride in matters dealing with the will of the empire. So the guard that just slew the Pict is now going to be in a cell, and he turns to Parthomach Othna. He says, you see what I must put up with on this barbarous frontier? And then he makes like, but now I must go to a banquet at the house of Demetrius. Will you accompany me? And he acts shocked that Parthomach Othna will not. Their tongue twister of titles, okay, will not accompany him. And the body is left there hanging, and you can see again Parthomach Othna just looking on grimly, helpless to do anything to aid the poor soldier that was killed on the cross. And then we go into part 2. It's called Ghost in the Night. And it says, later, in an inner chamber of Eboracum, the man called Parthomach Othna paces tigorously to and fro, his sandaled feet making no sound on the marbled tiles. His unspeaking servant watches him, almost starting at length, suddenly to hear his own name. And this is when he says, Grom, well, I know you, why you held my knees so tightly, why you uttered aid of the moon woman. You feared I would lose my self-control and make a mad attempt to succor the poor wench. I believe that was what the Roman dog wished, with all his baiting by the gods, that I should stand by and see a man of mine slaughtered on a Roman cross. And he's like, black gods of Arlaia, even you would I invoke to ruin and destruction of those butchers. And this is where we find out that the guy who was Parthomach Othna was actually King Bran Mak Morn himself, disguised as an emissary so he could see what his enemies were about. And Grom says, he knew you, master. His eyes will haunt me when I lay dying. The guy on the cross knew him. And Bran Mak Morn knew that. Again, he was helpless. He goes, hey, he knew me. And almost until the last, I read in his eyes the hope that I might aid him. Gods and devils, is Rome the butcher to my people beneath my very eyes? Then I am not king, but dog. And Grom's like, not so loud, master. If these Romans suspected you were Bran Mak Morn, they'd nail you on a cross beside that other. And Bran makes a statement. He goes, they will know it, and soon. And he's already got a plan of vengeance starting to form up in him. And he says, and the chief of the plume is just Titus Sulla. He dies. And Grom says, let me go. Let me attempt to assassinate him. My life is worth nothing, but Bran will not have it. He goes, nay, old war dog, you'll not throw your life away needlessly. I know this Titus Sulla. He is no fool, nor coward, though even the bravest man has his own particular fear. And he goes, thus, during a war upon the wall of Hadrian, Titus Sulla does not hasten there, as the military governor of this province should do, but sends Caius Camillus in his place, while he himself takes up residence far to the west in the Tower of Trajan. It is there in this very den that the Roman lion must be bearded. So he is already forming a plan. And he tells Grom to ride north to Cormac Naconac and to have him sweep the frontier with sword and torch and let the Gales get their fill of slaughter there to drive this Titus Sulla over to the Tower of Trajan, where he can exact a vengeance upon him, where he's more set aside. He goes, but for a time, he goes, I will join you there in a while, but for a time I have affairs in the west. And he gives him a bronze seal and a gold seal that'll get Grom through all the places he needs to go to come in contact with this Cormac Naconac. And he is gone. And Bran takes this time to rest. He knows he needs a little bit of sleep. But in his sleep, he meets this old dude Gonar, who's King of the Picts, right? High counselor to the King of the Picts. He's a priest of the moon. And he comes to Bran in Bran's sleep. And when he appears to Bran in his slumbers this night, Bran's like, what now, old one? Goes all well in Baldor. And Gonar says, all is well where my body lies sleeping, my king. Yet across the void I have come to battle with you for your soul. Are you mad, the thought you have in your brain? And he knows what Bran Mak Morn is thinking. And Bran tells him, he goes, look, this day I stood by and I watched a Pict die on the cross of Rome. What his name or his rank, I do not know. I do not care. It was mine to protect him, and I failed. Now it's mine to avenge him. Now, he's taking this personally. This guy, he didn't even know his name. He just knew he was one of his own, and he failed in saving him. But Gorna is saying, but in the name of the gods, Bran, take your vengeance another way than the way you are thinking. Return to the Heather, mass your warriors, and spread a sea of blood and flame the length of the Great Wall. And Bran's like, I'll do all that, but I'm also doing this. You can't dissuade me. He goes, there are no weapons that I would not use against Rome. By steel and fire I will fight her, by subtlety and by treachery, and by the worms of the earth. And then Gorna says, then woe, Bran, woe to Pictum if you reach the beings you seek. Woe to the unborn kingdom, and woe, black woe to all the sons of men. And then Bran awakens, and he is on his way. He grabs a bag of coin, and he departs. Now, I'm going to leave this up there a second. There is a lot to take in. The art is incredible. And he is off to buy his way to see these worms of earth and bargain with them. And on his way out, he departs. Grom is on his way to a different part of this place. And while Grom's doing that, he has no idea what his king is up to. So he bridles a horse, and on his way out, he stops by the jail. And in that jail is the guy that killed the guy on the cross, that picked on the cross. And he makes a little noise to get the guy over to the bars. And there, he strikes quickly, he strikes swiftly, and slits the guy's throat, leaving him to die in a blood-gurgling death. So we get all that in those panels there. His silent stalking out to where this guy is jailed. And one part of his vengeance is already handled by his hand. And only a single guardsman is left on his way to depart. And the guy's like, halt, fellow, and give an account of yourself. You're no Roman by the look you so. And Bran Mak Morn tells him one thing. He goes, I bring you gifts, dog of Rome. A gift in either hand, and you choose the one you get. In one hand he has coin, in the other he has a sword. The guy can choose death, or he can choose riches. And there's a great panel of the guy thinking it over. He chooses the coin, and Bran throws it on the ground and says, here, dog, ask, and if any ask where you got them, tell them from a ghost in the night, as he rode forth into hell. And thus ended part 1. So, part 1. So a lot happened in that part. The setup of vengeance. Now in part 2, we get that dark vengeance. And we're not going to leave you hanging. We're going to go to it, and we're going to give you the whole story today. All right, we won't do a part 1 and part 2. So our story picks up in issue 17. And again, just another beautiful cover here. And we got Ernie Chan and Earl Norham on this cover. So just a thing of beauty. Fantastic colors on that. And we have this scene opening up. Cold wind breathes across the gloomy waste, and against the sky a few herons flap heavily. The long reeds and marsh grass wave in broken undulations, and out across the desolation of waste a few mares reflect the dull light. Here and there rise curiously regular hillocks above the general levels, and gaunt against the somber sky, Bran sees a marching line of upright monoliths, menhirs, reared by what nameless hands. And a row of well-garrisoned watchtowers hold them in check, and a chief among these is the unsaleable keep, which men call the Tower of Trajan. Now, look at this opening spread. What a beautiful piece of art by Barry Windsor Smith and Tim Conrad. It's absolutely gorgeous, right? And the Tower of Trajan is in the background there, across the sky, as Bran makes his way forward. And he's stopping on the way. He's trying to gather news of what's going on. If Connacht had got his part started, which he has, he goes, news from Eboracum. Hey, there's war in the north, this guy is telling him. Cormac's wild gales have risen to assail Hadrian's wall, and Titus Sulla has heard the war cries as well. And Titus' legions, why, they've moved north of here to the wall, though Sulla did not accompany his legionnaires. And this is what Bran Mak Morn wants to hear. He wants Sulla in that tower. And he's further being told that this Sulla you ask about, he's no coward, it said, but each man has his own dread. And Sulla's is the Gaelic prince Cormac, who's sworn to cut out the governor's heart and eat it raw. So while the legions march north, Sulla has ridden west to the safety of the Tower of Trajan. He goes, it was just yesterday I heard it, I swear. Caius Camillus has taken Sulla's place, for he revels in the red waves of war which wash at the foot of the wall. And Bran, hearing all these from the dark-eyed fenman, laughs and is well pleased. And he sets out across this moor once again, and he comes across a witch. And it says, he feels the incredible antiquity of the slumbering land as he walks like the last man on the day after the end of the world. Yet at last he sees a token of human life, a drab hut of wattle and mud set in the reedy breast of the fen, and before it a woman. She is not old, yet the evil wisdom of ages is in her eyes. And he looks at her, she looks at him, she says, enter, master. If you do not fear to share the roof of Atla, the witch woman of Daganmore. And he enters and she asks him what he seeks, and he says, the worms of the earth. So we'll give you a moment to look at this art. It's very detailed. You need more than a precursory flash. Take a good deep look. So a lot going on. He is now with the witch. And she says, that is an ill saying, even spoken by chance. And he goes, I speak not by chance, but by intent. My race is old, but they were not the first in Britain. And he says, your race was. By your mottled skin and slanted eyes and tainted veins, I know you, and I know what you know. And she calls him mad to come seeking that from which strong men fled screaming in old times. And he says, I have heard a viper hiss, and I do not dream. And he tells her enough of the weaving of the words. He came to seek the link between the two worlds, and he has found it. She says, I need lie to you no more, man of the north. They do not seek to dwell beneath it. They you seek still dwell beneath the sleeping hills, but they have drawn apart farther and farther from the world you know. Yet they still steal forth in the night to grip women straying on the moors. And she says, yes, that they do. What would you of me? And he wants her to bring him to them. And she starts laughing. He goes, do not laugh at me, or I'll... She goes, strike and be damned. She goes, do you think that such life as mine is so sweet that I would cling to it like a babe to the breast? He goes, you're right, threats are foolish. I will buy your aid. Name your price. And this is where the deeds he's doing to gain vengeance start taking a really dark turn. For she is this abhorrent thing. And she says that it may be in the days to come, Bran Mak Morn, that you will curse the armor that broke my dagger. She goes, oh, I knew you the moment I laid eyes on you, but I will lead you to the door you seek, and the price shall be the kisses of a king. He's like, kisses, but why? She goes, I am half human at least, yet I have never known the love of man. And so the price that she exacts from him is one night of lovemaking with King Bran Mak Morn, so she can know the touch of man. And already you can tell that he is making choices for himself that he should not be making. Things that can doom a soul. And our part 2 of this one is a toppling of the towers. So he sets forth and says, the cold gray mist of dawn wrapped King Bran like a clammy cloak, as he recalls the words of Atla the werewoman. If you would seek the key which alone will open the door which lies unseen between yourself and the worms of the earth, you must first find the one thing sacred to them. Go then to the mound which men call Dagon's Barrow, if you dare. And it says, Bran dares. He makes his way there, and she says, he asks her if blah, 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 blah. He asks her if he will find the black stone there. And she says, Dagon's Barrow is the door to the black stone. And he asks her if the stone is guarded. She says, it is not guarded, for none have ever dared enter. She goes, but if you meet anyone upon the road, you will die, as mortal man has not died for long centuries. But he gets there. He's uncontested in his journey, and he sees the door before him. And it's got that star on it. And he's but to enter. So once he enters, a feat of strength to open it. He goes, when you come to Dagon's Barrow, draw aside the stone that blocks the entrance. If you can stand the foul charnel house scent, which will flow out, then you have pried it loose. Past then, under the dome of the mound, you will not be able to see well despite the dim sunlight at your back. For that sunlight will seem less to illuminate the tunnel within than to be fouled by the rank darkness within. At length you will come stoop to the tomb's chamber. The floor of the chamber will be made of 6 great stones, grouped upon about a 7th. Lift out the center stone and you will see. Atla had refused to say more despite threats or curses. So he does all this, and once he pries this center stone out, he can see that there's another way. There's stairways down. But as he descends these stairways, it's as if descending into hell. It says, nor can he see now, at least not clearly. Straining his eyes downward, he can see only the gaping blackness of a dark well. Though the skin beneath his shoulders crawls curiously, he swings himself into the abyss and feels the clinging blackness swallow him. Groping downward, he feels steps, too small for human feet. Steadying himself with one hand, he follows them. But the farther he progresses, the less like steps they become, till at last they are but mere bumps of worn stone. Finally, they cease altogether, and he must crawl the rest of the way. And all the while, he knows he is sinking deeper and deeper into the very guts of earth. What strange beings, Bran wonders, have slithered up and down this slanting shaft for how many centuries? And then he feels something on his back, and it is the stone he seeks. So just exquisite art, really making you feel the dread of him as he goes down there, and the dread of the situation. So as we continue on, he slithers back up and out of the hole, and he brings this black sphere. He brings it, the black stone, to this pond, right? Dagon's mare, and he drops it in there. And as he drops it in there, he's thinking of the great beast that's said to live in this water, and how no man ventures into it. And so he drops it, it goes below, and becomes placid once again. And later, he comes upon the witch again. She says, "Are you alive and sane?" He goes, "I have been into hell, and I have returned. What is more, I have that which I sought." And she said, "You really dared steal the black stone? Where is it?" He goes, "No matter, but I have heard sounds in the night beneath the very earth. Have you betrayed me, Atla?" And she tells him, "They do not need my word to know you. The farther they have retreated from the world of men, the greater have grown their other uncanny powers. Someday at dawn, your hut will stand empty." He goes, "If they strike me down in the night, they will never know what became of the black stone they prize so highly." And he goes, "Woman, I would speak with them." She goes, "You dare come with me and meet them in the night?" He goes, "Thunder of all the gods, who are you to ask me if I dare? Lead me to them and let me bargain for their vengeance this night. The day of retribution draws nigh. This day I saw silvered helmets and bright shields gleam across the fence. Titus Sulla has arrived at the Tower of Trajan, and Caius Camilla has marched to the wall." And off they go. And, my apologies. So off they set. It's raining hard. And they get to a cave. She goes, "Yonder cave is the door to those you seek, O king. Dare you enter?" And he tells her, "Ask me but once more if I dare. And your head will part company with your shoulders. Now lead on." And he gives her a shove forward. And they enter this dark, really confined cavern. And as they make their way down, they light a torch. She goes, "They do not need those steps any longer, but you will need them." And Bran descends to the solid floor below, and in a moment later, Atla descends after him. And once they get down there, it is really dark. And he goes, although he cannot clearly see his ancient foes, Bran knows horror, but not fear. And we got a couple page spread here of what's going on. And you're starting to see the creatures down there called the worms of the earth. And at length Atlas speaks fearfully. They know you have the stone, O king. They will kill us both. Speak to them. They can understand your speech, though you may not understand theirs, but it will avail you not. You are a human and a Pict. He goes, "Hey, I am a Pict, a son of those warriors who drove your brutish ancestors here. Roll on me like a flood if you dare, and your black stone will be lost to you forever." And then he hears this kind of cheering, chattering, and it's them talking to each other. And the witch is amazed. She goes, "They fear you, O king, by the black secrets of Arlea. Who are you that hell itself quails before you?" And she says, "They will buy back the black stone at any price." He goes, "Good. They must deliver it into my hands, Titus Sulla, governor of Eboracum, now commander of the Tower of Trajan. This they can do, I know. Though how they will do it, I know not, nor do I care. He just wants this guy delivered to him." And the witch tells him that they understand, and that he needs to bring the black stone to Dagon's ring tomorrow night and lay it on the altar, and they will bring Titus Sulla to him. And he receives back up the steps, and they close it and leave the worms of the earth behind them. Now, the next day brings Bran back to the river, and he dives in to retrieve the black stone. And while he's in that river, while he's in the mare, he sees the shape of a creature that haunts it, but does not come in contact with it. But he understands even more why this place is shunned by man itself. He is treading in territory that no man should be in, and the setting of the story is letting you know this. So he's got the black stone with him again. He leaves the primeval shape of what lurks below, and he sets it back on his way. Now, when he once he goes out there, some instinct prompts him to ride not straight to Dagon's ring, but toward the Tower of Trajan. And there he can't see the outline of the tower anymore, so he approaches, and everything is crumbled down into the earth. And he comes across a soldier and a Roman, and it says the walls, they fell, crashed down like skies, falling on the day of doom. And Bran asks this dying soldier, a Roman soldier, "Where is Titus Sulla?" He goes, "Before dawn it began, faint dim clawings far below us like foundations being dug away. Titus laughed at us, but all day we heard them. Later, even as the tower shuddered, we heard a fearful scream from the governor's chambers, screams which receded, even as we came into the bowels of the earth. Then the tower reeled, roof broke, and the Roman dies in his hands. And Bran sets back out for Dagon's ring. And once he's there, the witch is there in the middle, and so are all of them surrounding it. And he goes, "Let them make good their bargain." And she points, and she see it, and she says, "There." And you can see the scene of horror which is taking place here. These creatures have dug out everything from beneath these buildings, and they fell and crushed all the soldiers. And then you see this fearful guy this guy that people held in fear, this Titus Sulla, who was just this deviant to all these people who cast judgment unjustly and just murdered people for sport and folly. And here he is, slaveringly mad. And Bran starts getting mad. He's like, "I had thought to give this striking he goes, "I thought to give this striking vengeance, but now I give it in mercy. Veil Caesar." And he slices the head from Titus Sulla. And he goes to Atla, he goes, "They lied to me, Atla." She goes, "Nay, they harmed him not. It was what he saw and came to know that broke his brain, when they dragged him through the deepest pits of hell, where even you might have blanched." And Bran says, "Well, for the Romans that they know not the secret. Well, now for the Romans that know not the secrets of this accursed land, with its monster-haunted mares, its foul witch women, and its lost, hell-spawning caverns." And the witch gives him a bit of something to chew on, something to think about. She says, "Are they more foul than a mortal who seeks their aid? Give them their black stone, Bran Mak Morn." And he's just anger right now, and he throws it at them. He goes, "Hey, take your cursed stone," and he crushes the head of one of them. And he says, "Go back to hell and take your idol with you. Your ancestors were men, those strange and monstrous, but gods. You have become, in ghastly fact, what my people once called you in scorn, worms of the earth. Back into your holes and burrows ye foul the air, and leave on the clean earth the slime of the serpents ye have become. Gunnar was right. There are shapes too foul to use, even against Rome." And the witch says, "King of Pictland, king of fools, do you blench at so small a thing as a fleeting glimpse of them? Stay and let me show you the real fruits of the pit." And he says, "Shut up, witch," and he slaps her, and then he retreats and he is on his way. And she tells him as he's running, "Run, fool, run, but you have called them forth, and they will long remember. And in their own time, they will come to you again." And it says, Bran is wild for the clean heather of the north, where he can plunge a sword into untainted slaughter and his sickened soul into the red maelstrom of battle, forgetting the horror which lurks below the fens of the west. He rides to the fens like a haunted ghost until the hellish laughter of the werewoman dies out in the darkness behind. And thus ends our tale of dark vengeance and Bran Mormont, the king, learning a lesson that some things are too foul, even when seeking vengeance, to employ and use. And the cost that it has on one's soul is too high to pay. So, a fantastic story. A+ in storytelling, A+ adaptation, A+ in art, and just a tale that sticks with you. You know, careful, one of those careful what you wish for. It's more than what you're willing to bargain. You may not know it yet, but it is. And in this ultimate seeking of vengeance, Bran finds out that Gorna was right, that the price that one has to pay for such vengeance is too high on the soul, it's too high on the person, and it can cause more harm than good in the long run. And it is just a great tale of desperate men in desperate times and of lessons learned in the ways that are hardest to learn them. But that's it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. It was a fun story to tell. Otto, I hope you enjoyed my review of it. Until next time, guys, keep it casual. Attention all, use channel sponsor Rogue Trader at theroguetraderutah.com and my code KEEPITCASUAL for 10% off your comic cleaning and pressing needs. Remember, when submitting your books to be graded, use a trusted professional.